You know I'm a rapper, I'll be rapping every day. Rap on the podcast.
What do you say?
What do you say?
Yeah, I'm not gay.
At least not today.
When I hang out with Ray.
Fuck.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wait a minute.
While we rapping like Will Smith when he was talking in the 80s in a car.
Then he
That's
got
how they used to
smacked.
rap. They used to rap like so like
Yeah. Then he got
basic
smacked
rhyme scheme.
by
And people were like,
Chris Rock.
yo, this is hard. This is fire. Went to the store and I bought myself a meal.
And then I fuck a whore.
It was clean. It was like clean raps too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Who the hun, the hun, the hun, the hun, hun.
Yeah.
And then I think it was Big Daddy Kane came in and kind of just changed his stuff up. Because Rakim, I think he wasn't like that either. But no, perfect. Yeah. Oh, good Lord. All right, so how do we want to do this?
Beautiful day today.
It is. I thought it was
Look at
gonna. I'm glad that it didn't rain.
When you getting yourself like a view, man? When you getting yourself a view like this?
Probably maybe next year because I'm in a market for a house. I have to buy one, but I don't want to rush the process
That's the most
because it's
adult
gonna be the
fucking
first
conversation.
Yeah.
I'm in the market for a house right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to buy a house because it's gonna be my first investment property, but I want to have a in-house studio as well. So I'm gonna have to make a large investment to where, and I think while consuming a lot of the entrepreneurial content where they say, you know, you got to pay to play. So let's just say you put yourself in a situation where you're paying like the $4, $5, $6, $7 grand a month. Now you have to earn that in order to live. So it motivates you to stay on top of things. So I have to go and, you know, find a location to where I'll have maybe one floor will be my studio, then the other floor I'll live on, and then probably find something that's maybe like a fourplex or something like that, and then rent out the other two locations, have that cover at least $1,000, maybe about 70 to 80% of the mortgage, and then I'll just use that, and then ultimately after about a year, 2 years, I'll go somewhere else. This will become a investment property 100%, and then I'll see if I could find a location with a view before I decide, I want to become a family man. So,
All right, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
All right, Nipsey Hussle.
Yeah, gotta, because I don't want to rush too fast into certain sort of things, but because I always try to have a plan for everything.
Love that shirt, by the way. I just read it. That's fire.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, part of the mentorship that I happened to be in, they said we gotta get a uniform. So he gave us.
That's a banger.
Melanin Millionaire. So I'm not quite there, but I will be there.
Can I buy that off you right now?
You want to buy it off of my?
Give you $100 for that shirt right now.
I'm not wearing anything underneath it. My nipples.
Just
will
change,
be out.
bro.
I will not. This is.
I will buy it from you right now.
It is nice. It is nice, isn't it?
That's a flat. That's fire.
It is.
That's fire.
You were like a millionaire in melanin. I thought
You just have a million melanin.
I'm a millionaire in melanin.
that was melanin millionaire.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes
I
sense.
get it, you're black.
Yeah, I am indeed black. You know, I am Scandinavian, but one way or another, you know, it's a great sweatshirt. I like it.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
fire.
it. Thank
It's
you.
a banger.
Thank you.
Oh, I always want to see like a really pale white guy wear that.
Right? I always found a lot of humor in seeing like people when what was the oh my God, what was it? Was it FUBU? I think it was FUBU.
Fubu.
Yeah, it was FUBU when they had
White people in
yeah,
Fubu.
it was FUBU and Fat Farm. I remember in like 2006, I was probably like 11, about to be 12, and I remember there was a specific design that they had where it was like a pro-black kind of design. I think it was
Yeah.
FUBU, and they had something. There was a white guy and then an Asian. I think they were selling it at Cookies.
Yeah.
At my in Brooklyn, and I guess they must have got it for like maybe 10, 15 some bucks or something like that. So it's like a pro-black shirt, and there was an Asian and also a white guy, both wearing it the same day in school.
Well, it's funny.
I
'cause
got a kick out of
Fubu.
it.
I just met Damon John, so I actually know this.
Yeah, so it's
Fubu. It stands for us by us.
for us by us. Yeah.
And it's like a white guy. That's hilarious.
I know white guys loved Echo Unlimited back in
Oh yeah, dude. Oh my God. They used to have a store in the mall that was right by my house. Dude, I'd walk in there and walk out with like 5 shirts for like $70, man. Well, no, those sweatshirts. It was good times, man. Good times.
Good times.
And funny enough, with Fubu, the next time that you see Damon John, you should ask him about the LL Cool J commercial.
Yeah, I don't know what
that was when he had LL Cool J come in and make a commercial, because LL was making a commercial for, I think it was Nike. It might have been Nike. And what he did in the commercial was, in the rap, he said "for us, by us" in the rap, and kind of promoted, well, not even kind of, the intention was to promote Fubu in a different commercial. And then what it ended up happening was, on the back end, after the commercial dropped, Fubu stock and revenue spiked upwards. So it was one of those covert, like a covert mission. So he was like a spy, and when it was beautiful.
No, but you'll see stuff like that happen all the time. In fact, this company right here is so right. They were doing like one sale a day, $80 a day.
Yeah.
And then Joe Rogan mentioned them.
Yeah.
As soon as Joe Rogan mentioned them, you go from like $80 a day in sales to $10,000, $20,000 a day in sales.
Dude, Deion Sanders is doing it right now.
With the glasses.
With the glasses.
I've seen that.
$1 million and two.
It's a brilliant
1.2.
business move. Think about how many impressions you get.
Yeah.
Because think about it. Colorado, that's the big trend in football right now, right?
Yeah.
College football at least. And he wore his glasses. He has his eyewear company.
Yeah.
And all he's doing in every single interview, because there's such a big trend, he just hands his glasses to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's wearing it.
Yep.
It's become a thing. And because of that, you're getting like billions of impressions or hundreds of millions of impressions for free, just based off the publicity you're getting from something else. And then now he's doing millions of dollars in sales.
At the time of the taping, he did 1.2 in the day, and then now everything's for pre-order. I actually bought a pair myself.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And funny enough, with Blenders Eyewear, I worked with the company before.
Crazy.
So I found that wild. I'm like, really? So at the time of the taping, I think right now he's at about like 5.7 million, right? By the time this releases, there's no doubt in my mind he will have crossed $10 million in revenue, probably just based off of just that glasses. Because I don't know if it's just the company as a whole or if it's just that isolated product. But one way or another, talk about marketing, doesn't get much better than that.
I mean, they're for sure having logistics issues because when you grow that fast, you run into
without question.
a whole bunch of problems.
Without question.
But that's fucking awesome. And that just goes to show like how crazy the internet is.
Yeah.
And if you market things correctly, you can knock it out the park. You can go from 0 to 8 figures in fucking 90 days.
Yeah, marketing is everything. Marketing is everything.
Everything.
Yeah, no matter what business that you're in, no matter what kind of man that you are, doesn't really matter what it is. You market yourself the right way, people will follow. But we got to get started the right way. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is I, the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the
Chiseled Adonis.
He is a serial entrepreneur, the Filipino Prince Tycoon, Rene Lacade, and this is We Are Assiduous. Right, and we were talking before we started rolling. We were talking about differences in the kind of man that one may be, because I think masculinity is in a very interesting place.
Well, some people think you have to smash a bunch of girls, make a bunch of money. They think you need a Bugatti, right? And then some guys are like very conservative, very traditional. They think you have to be a man of God. You have to just do everything you can to be a good human. You have to have a mission, a purpose. They think you should get married right away to one woman and that's it. So there's a mix, because I do think that there's merit with both of them.
Right.
And we're talking about it because David's big on Khabib. Yeah. Because Khabib, I was saying, is like the idealistic man, right? Like his entire life doesn't have eyes for any other women. Goes, fights 29 fights, undefeated in the UFC. All he does is train, pray. He's a man of God, man of faith. He's Muslim, so it's Allah. But he literally all he does is Allah, his wife, train, that's it. That's his purpose. And he has no distractions. He has blinders on, like David was saying. And there's something admirable about that, something honorable. For him, it's all about honor and legacy. And it's beautiful to see it, because you see it, you're like, wow, I aspire to be like that. He has no worldly distractions.
Right, and he's like the epitome of like a character out of Dragon Ball Z.
Yes.
Right? Like he's like, all right, my entire life is training and getting better, and when I'm not training and getting better, it's my family, it's God, that's it.
He's Goku.
No distraction. He's literally,
Goku.
Right? So with that being the case, you look at that, and you're like, man, that's a great high point of masculinity. And you were talking about how you don't think it's very realistic because it's uncommon. Now, with the vast amount of distractions that exist, and moreover, the vast amount of people that are being distracted.
To be that big, I can say this from experience.
Yeah.
The richer, the more famous you get, the more distractions appear in your life.
Absolutely.
Like when you're broke, it's easy to have no distractions, right? That's why I'm blown away. When people are broke and they have distractions, it's like, what the fuck is distracting?
Right.
There's nothing fun down there. There's nothing fun down there. There's nothing fun on the first floor. And you're finding a way to get distracted by these mundane things. Imagine if you had money, you'd get fucking distracted.
It'd be over.
Because the second, right, if Khabib is Goku, the negative response, because Khabib, unfazed by women, unfazed by money, legacy, honor only, getting better, being the best version of yourself. Then you have the evil side, or like the opposite of Khabib, which is Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Which is what made their trilogy, or not their trilogy, their fight so interesting, because he's the guy that's like brash.
Yeah.
He's fazed by money and women, as we've seen,
And
like
pride.
the way his career, and pride.
Yeah.
He's like the Vegeta.
Yeah, he's a Vegeta.
He's the Vegeta. And that's what made it so interesting. But that's a guy who was great, and you could see he was hungry. He was pure coming up. But then as soon as he made $100 million, he got distracted. He's like drugs, hedonism, women. He's no longer like the Conor of old that was like...
Right, because he accomplished his goal. Because I was talking about how he had a quote in 2013, and he was talking about how when he makes it, he'll be champion. His name will be synonymous around the world. He'll be able to buy that house for his wife. She'll be able to drive whatever amount of car for whatever days of the week it may be. His parents will be taken care of. His children will be in a situation where they don't have to worry about anything. And he accomplished the goal. And I'll never forget, there was a video, I think it came out in 2018 or 2019, where somebody was reading the quote to him. And you could look on his face, he was filled with emotion because he achieved everything.
Yeah.
And Marvin Hagler had a quote where he said, it's very difficult to get up at 5 a.m. and run when you're wearing silk pajamas.
Yeah.
Right? And that's truly it, where it depends on what your end goal is.
Right.
What is it?
What's your motivation?
Purpose? What's your motivation? What is it that you're really doing? What it is that you're doing? What are you doing it for? And when you find yourself in a situation like McGregor, where it was all about taking care of those, you know, who you loved and submitting your legacy. Well, you've done that. So now what?
Exactly. And I think once he hit that like point,
you
see his performance. He hasn't won a fight in like years, right?
Yeah, plateaued. I think he's won like 1 of 5. It's almost like Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
And with Silva, it's like, yo, you're
Silva, he's the GOAT, but he looks like
he's
his
the greatest
age.
of all time. And he should have walked away, but then he had no other love.
Right.
There was no other way to pivot. Because he's almost like, if I were to go into pro wrestling, he's like a Ric Flair.
Right.
You're the greatest of all time. You just don't know how to let go because this is all that you know. This is all that you really are in your own eyes.
But even with Conor McGregor, I think for now he just does it because there's nothing else to do. I think it's a pride thing, the reason he keeps fighting.
Yeah.
It's like a pride thing. He wants to show he's still the best, but he doesn't have that dog in him anymore. So that's the thing, right? When you measure masculinity or what makes a man great, is it honor? Is it legacy like Khabib? Is it staying true to the path of God? Or is it achievements and accomplishments like Conor McGregor? Because there's two things, because you can look at Conor McGregor and be like, that's a masculine guy. He's accomplished everything, right? He has achievements. He's still leaving a legacy in a sense. Or you look at Khabib and it's like he did it a different way.
Right.
So what is your measure of a man in that case?
I would lean more towards Khabib because all of the worldly things, because granted, we can both reach the same destination, but take different roads to get
100%.
there, right? Like I think everybody's seen the meme or the cartoon where they had, it's like a track race. One has all of the obstacles. You have the steeplechase that's up in there. You got the hurdles that are in there. There's like knives or whatever, the spikes that's in the floor that you have to go through. Yeah. And the other person has like a clean path. Now, when we both finish the race, we will have made it to the destination, but we had different paths to go there.
Facts.
For me, I would lean more towards the Khabib route because there's a level of honor that exists there. Now, granted, we all have different circumstances, but I think there's a level of morals that one should have or a code that you should live by. I think with Tony Montana in Scarface, he said, in this life, all I have is my word and my balls, or some of that nature. So if you're in a situation where you're an honorable man, I think that's the highest peak level of masculinity.
So I think where it gets weird, right, is Conor McGregor not an honorable man in that sense then? Because use Tony Montana as an example. He's killing a bunch of people.
Yep.
He's doing all this coke and shit. But if it's his quote saying he's an honorable man. What do you define honor?
Yeah, because that I wouldn't necessarily say that makes him an honorable man. But I think there's connections between both sides to where I think if you're a man of your word, that's something that's honorable. If you say you're gonna do something and you follow through with it, no matter what may transpire, I think that's an honorable person. Now, granted, your methods of doing so may be relatively, different. There could be individuals who, engage in illegal activity in order to get there. You could have other people who go the legal route. But if you're a man of your word, I think there's a level of honor across the board, no matter what it may be.
Right.
Now, granted, you don't have to respect that, because let's just say if you're in a situation where you're a murderer, right? And you say, hey, I want to make sure my family's taken care of. There's a ton of people who are in prison who only reason why they did crime was to make sure that their family was taken care of. Granted, it's honorable that your family's taken care of, but you went and got there through nefarious reasons. So now, despite the fact that you completed your mission, you're having to pay the tax for it.
Right.
Because you went about it in the opposite particular kind of way. You didn't go the godly route per se.
Right. The way I think this even came up is because we were talking about, I think people are confused right now with what makes you a man.
Right.
What makes you masculine, right? There's the dialogue where people say, oh, real men, they meet someone, they get married, they sleep with the same person for the rest of their life.
Right.
And there's other guys that are like, before you get married, sleep with 100 women, test it out, because that's how you know. And here's the thing, I like the idea of just sleeping with one woman, getting married, and having a great life. I have friends that do it, and I respect them a lot.
Yeah.
But I also think that for a lot of men, genetically, and maybe we have to fight our genetics on this, but you're naturally going to have, I guess, temptations to do other things.
Temptation, yeah.
And then I guess looking forward, like looking more into that also, I think when it comes to your value as a man, one litmus test to gauge your value as a man. A lot of other things don't do this, right? Because money doesn't gauge your value as a man. Because there's a bunch of people that are rich that are fucking shit, like they're shitty people. They're rich, but they have no personality. They're out of shape. It's like you're not really a high value man. I hate the term, but high value man. There's people that are in shape, but they don't make any money. So they're not hardworking. They're not unambitious. The only way you really gauge your value as a man, the ultimate litmus test, is how many women want to sleep with you. And not only that, not want to sleep with you, because that's something that's perspective. You can say, oh, a bunch of women want to sleep with me, but you don't know unless they actually sleep with you.
Right.
So the ultimate litmus test, I was saying, is like how many women you've slept with, or the quality of women you've slept with.
Right.
Right. I like there's something that said that you have to sleep with at least 50 women before getting married and picking one. I don't know if that's the case. I think you have to sleep with, like, let's say you sleep with, I don't know, Beyonce. You get Beyonce to cheat on Jay-Z with you. That's how you know you're the fucking man. Right. You can sleep with any woman on the planet if that's the case. You only, if that's how you lose your virginity, you just convince Beyonce to cheat on Jay-Z with you. That's the only woman you have to sleep with for the rest of your life. You can get married after that. You know you're a high value man. You passed the litmus test. So I don't think there's a number, but I do think that a woman sleeping with a man is the ultimate litmus test, because women are the ones who decide, like, because when they say high value, they're talking about the dating market, or like your value as a man. So women are the ones that, they're the gatekeepers of that. So they can determine, right, who are the men that like are desired. Because ultimately, I think if we're gonna just talk from a genetic perspective or a scientific perspective, human beings were created to procreate. I guess that's a biblical perspective as well. Human beings were put on the planet to procreate, to have children, to reproduce, and if a lot of women want to reproduce with you, you're a successful human being. Right,
and I think and also resourceful as well, because a lot of times people, when the conversation surrounded of high value man and everything, right? And I think the desirability of women to want to be with you, that plays a very large role. So if you're now in a situation where you make the money, you have the contacts, you have the success, but you don't have that women who like you, then you become like that dork area. So like you're the geek individual who has all of this stuff, but then you're like, oh, could you really like come over and sleep with, like you don't want to be that type of person. So it's essential to be able to pull right at those levels. And the fact that somebody like a Beyonce, because if you look amongst women and where you would rank with achievement, beauty, their essence, aura per se, she's up there, right?
When she's with the billionaire. So that's the ultimate litmus test.
So with that being
if there's
the
a
case,
billionaire that's with you, then obviously you're...
And her willingness to want to leave that to go with you. And it's not just, okay, she left and slept with me. She left, slept with me, and then wants to be with me. Okay, cool, I'm good. I don't have
that validates you, period.
Right, that validates you, right? And that's not to say, oh, well, that's the only way to, become a high value. But if you're in a situation where the women who you sleep with or the women who you frequent, they're women of quality. They're also
I was going to say that. Like, if you sleep,
right?
like, it's not the amount of women you sleep with. Let's say you sleep with a thousand just trashy women, like overweight, obese, will sleep with anyone. You sleep with 1,000 of those women. That doesn't make you a high value man. You're just disgusting at that point.
You just sleep.
You're gross.
You just sleep with any of the
exactly.
The quantity doesn't overtake the quality.
100%.
And I think it's moreover the lessons that you learn in the midst of trying to accumulate that amount, because as you get closer and closer, you start to notice, like, wait a minute, there's certain intangibles that I could take away from the process. Like, if you're somebody who's no longer afraid of the approach, you're actually able to be comfortable around the women. You're able to create an experience to where they want to go and hang out. Like, for example, like Dan Blazarian or whatever the case is. Like, it's gotten to a point now where, let's just say he was paying the women to go around. You think that's going to have to last forever?
Yeah.
Women will just naturally, okay, I've turned 18, I've turned 21, I've turned 25.
I want to go hang out with Dan Blazarian.
I want to go hang out with Dan Blazarian because it seems like it's very cool. He's a vibe, as they would say. So with that being the case, once you get to that particular kind of point, now that value is solidified. It's there. And that's the other approach, like the McGregor approach versus like the Khabib approach. I think that's where
I guess the difference is.
Right.
When people say like high value man, people misinterpret it. High value man, if we're going to just talk by definition, is a man that a lot of women want to be with. You're very valuable, so you're really valuable as a reproductive resource. So
you're the guy women want to be with. You're the dude who guys want to be.
That's like what a high value man.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being a high value man and an honorable man. And a principled man.
Right.
You know? So you can have a Khabib who married his wife, been with her ever since, doesn't look at other women, doesn't even take pictures. I thought that was dope. He said he doesn't take pictures with other women. So he met with the CEO of a company that he really likes. He took a picture with the CEO's husband because the CEO was a woman. Right. Because he doesn't take pictures with other women. Yeah. I think there's something honorable, something principled about that. You know? He's a high value man in his own sense. But you have a Dan Blazarian who's around a bunch of women. He's also a high value man. You can't deny that. It's just he's not like an honorable man. He's not a principled man. He's not necessarily. What were you gonna say, David?
Yeah. So I was gonna comment on that if you don't mind. So is that?
He plugged his mic in too. He's like, I want to get in on this.
Gotta get that.
Is that then value? Because there's Khabib is a high value man because he provides for his family. He doesn't lie. He tries not to, or at least he always tells the truth. He's honorable to his wife. All these things. And then we put high value on people like Dan Bilzerian because they have money and access to pleasure and the riches of life. But like those things only last so long, right?
Well, is
that real value what Dan Bilzerian provides, or is it just like a big distraction from like what we were saying? Truly getting to like fulfillment because you're so distracted by yachts, parties, alcohol, all this stuff. So like, where's the real value?
Well, I think the value comes from the fact that like women want to reproduce with him. That's what the value is. Because if your purpose on earth is to reproduce as human beings, that's what it is, from a genetic level and a biblical level, or like a religious level. Bible, every religious text, Bible, Quran, it tells you you're here to reproduce. Right, you're here to have children, but also genetically, scientifically, it says human beings, you're here to reproduce as well. So if that's the case, if the basis of human existence is to reproduce, recreate, which is why sex is pleasurable, which is why having a family is beautiful, I think that yes, it makes him a high value man if he's the one that everyone wants to reproduce with. Because if that's the goal, like religiously and scientifically, that's the one common theme that human beings are here for. And everyone wants to do it with you, you're high value.
But there's another part to that reproduction goal in the Bible, which is like, reproduce with intention, and there's so much more to it. It's not like just like, go out, because then that's lustful.
Well, no, so
exactly. I think there's the desirability of the women to want to be able to reproduce with him. I think that's a portion of it. I think his resourcefulness and his ability to then, I don't want to say control, but have influence of everything, I think that also plays a role in the value as well. I think it's a lot of different factors. I think he's a high value man for a different reason than the honorable portion that Khabib holds. I think they both can exist within the same space, just on like different, specters.
But here's what I was gonna say also. I think he loses value as a man if he doesn't reproduce. So like, I don't know how old he is now. Is he like 40, 45? He's
gotta be like 40.
I don't know. Let's say he's 40, right? His clock is ticking. He's running out of time to reproduce. I think within the next couple of years.
Well, not necessarily. I mean,
okay, fair.
Because he can reduce forever. I think Al Pacino or Robert De Niro just had a kid.
Within the
like
next
80.
10, 20 years, if he doesn't have a kid, let's say he's 60, never has kids, he loses his value as a man, because it's like you had all of this stuff granted to you. You had a mission created by the universe, and you didn't fulfill it. It's like almost like wasted potential at that point.
Yeah. Well,
but let's say he has 100 kids. It's like you've completed your mission.
But it would depend, because let's just say, because of course, adoption or whatever exists, but then you can also become a mentor to millions upon millions. Like I don't.
But how can you mentor someone on having kids if you didn't have any?
No, correct. But then if you were to now take, somebody in and you were to now teach them, and you were to take all the things that you learned and you now pass that down, I think you're still able to maintain that value. I don't think it's predicated on somebody actually being your seed to carry on the bloodline. I think it's primarily attached to your counsel, to who it is that you've now have enlisted as your, I don't want to say successor, but somebody who's like your mentee kind of thing.
Fair.
I think if you're like a mentor, you can then pass that value down amongst the masses. I don't think it's predicated on like your actual by blood child, because let's just say if you're a situation where you were born and you're sterile, right? If you now are incapable of having kids, I don't think that's just a knock on, your value immediately, because at that point you're already born with a ceiling.
Fair, I understand that. But also, that's like saying you're being born with no legs. It's like you're born with a ceiling, but you can still be great in a sense.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
You just have to find different ways. Like, I think that goes back to like with the reaching the same destination, just finding a different sort of avenue or a different road to get there. Because with honor, I think, and truly with Khabib, he's not in the public eye like that, unless of course, he has an appearance or something like that. He's more behind the scenes. It's his wife, it's God, it's training. And he's so committed and dedicated to it. I think a lot of people, especially with the distractions, you find yourself in a situation where as you're ascending, you're building the value, you've now reached that value, you lose those core principles because they were never really established. If you have like non-negotiables in a relationship, and the moment that non-negotiable is now the other party is trying to negotiate, you must walk away. The moment that you even engage in the negotiation, you're taking a step away from your morals, your principles, what it is that you stand for, because this is supposed to be a non-negotiable. Somebody like Khabib, it's immediately, if I'm not taking photos with women, it doesn't matter who it may be. If this person is, if I told myself I'm not doing that, and now you're like, oh no, let's just take a photo or whatever, I must walk away because this is what I stand for. So I think that's what separates with an honorable type of individual, because you cannot be swayed by anything. You're stoic through and through.
But I think as a man, you live with two gods. Listen to this. As a man, you live with two gods. You live with the God of the physical world, which is the Dan Bilzerian side of the spectrum. It's like hedonism, fat, sugar, food that tastes good but isn't good for you. Money, drugs,
temptation,
sex, lust, temptation. That's the God of the physical. Then you have the God of the metaphysical, or the God of the spiritual, and that's Khabib, where it's hard work, dedication, training, a passion, a honor, a legacy. So I think as a man, your measure of a man isn't like which one of these things you follow. I think as a man, you can be somewhere in the middle, because I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I feel like I've experienced some of the Dan Bilzerian stuff, and it did make me feel good, I'm not gonna lie. But I've also experienced the Khabib stuff, the hard work, the dedication it takes to build something.
And how does that make you feel?
That makes me feel a lot better as well.
So even naturally, do you think one of them makes you feel better than the other?
Well, I don't know if one of them makes you feel better than the other one, because people say, oh, this one feels so much better. I don't think that's the case, because I'm not gonna lie. Fucking the other shit is really fun too.
Yeah.
But I think one leaves a lasting feel good for the rest of your life. Because this is a feel good that like, it's like eating a McDonald's cheeseburger.
Temporary. It's temporary.
It's like binge eating McDonald's. You're like, oh, this is so fucking good. The happiness you get from eating McDonald's, your brain's releasing the same chemicals. You still have dopamine.
Immediately after you hate it.
Yeah, exactly. But then right afterwards, you're like, what the fuck did I just do? Yeah. So it's kind of similar in the sense like you get the same feel good. One doesn't last, one does last.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what's the most important portion, or I think that's maybe why people can look at the Khabib kind of lifestyle and look at that grounded, honorable man and be like, man, at one point when you're older, you'll probably look back and say, maybe I could have done something. Not to say everything that you did was wrong. You'll always look back and be like, I'm proud of the man that I was. But because temptation looks so appealing, because we've all experienced it. There's moments in which you can be tempted by something, you go through with the temptation, and it's not so bad. It has no negative implication on your life. You went, you enjoyed whatever the case was, you return back to life, and you're like, oh, well, now I know what the experience was like. I no longer have to engage in it, but at least now I know. It's the excessive use or the excessive, submitting
too much of this and not enough of that.
Exactly. So there has to be a balance, I think, between the two. And I think that's ultimately why we have such an issue now with the masculinity, or even across anything.
People see this side and look appealing, and they don't look at that.
They completely abandon the other.
That's the thing, right? Because with Dan Bilzerian, we'll stick on this example. Let's say he's doing all this shit now, but let's say tomorrow he's like, you know what? Okay, I'm done with this. I'm gonna start a family. I'm gonna live a very wholesome life. I'm gonna continue to build my business and do that. I think he can confidently be on his deathbed, right? And he could be on his deathbed and be like, yo, that first 40 years of my life was so much fun. In the last 20 years, I accomplished my mission, I accomplished my goal. He can be completely fulfilled and happy. He's gonna live with zero regrets.
Because he's done it all. Yeah, exactly. He's done it all.
So that's kind of like what it is. And on the cross side of that, let's say you have a Khabib. I don't think Khabib is a good example because I don't think he'll live with any regrets.
None whatsoever.
But let's say you have someone that followed like God's plan for them. They married the first woman they had. They did all this, and on their deathbed, they're like, fuck, I wish I would have done some of the other stuff. And they lived with the regrets because they didn't get to do the other stuff.
Because I think
or you see it all the time. The guys that marry one woman, they're 40, and they're like, they finally give in after 20 years, and it goes bad, it goes downhill fast because they were bottling it in for 20 years. And eventually like, fuck it, and have a midlife crisis.
But that goes to not living to the principle, because if you consider with Khabib where he says, I don't lie. So if there's a moment in which you feel as if, oh, something's uneasy, because as we all know in relationships, it doesn't work if both parties don't work. The moment that one person's trying to overcompensate for the other, it's gonna fall apart. So if you're in a situation where it's like, all right, I got with this person, why did I get with this person? You have to be very intentional. The moment that you know, okay, well, they're grounded, we connect on our morals and our principles. The moment that things start to step away from that, I've got to now get you back in check or have to walk.
But I think
that's the thing. So sorry to interrupt you, but that's super important. There was, back in the day before I started listening to Jordan Peterson, he was one person, I agreed with everything he said except when he was like, I don't believe in divorce. Even if you're miserable and you have a child, you have to stay with that person. I think divorce should be illegal. And I was like, all right, that's a bit extreme. Now I totally agree.
100%.
I think it's like, if you made the shitty choice of not vetting the person correctly, but now you have a child, dude, it's not even about you anymore. It's about that kid. And you made a commitment. I think people take marriage so lightly nowadays. They think it's like, well, my friends are doing it. I'm at that age. I should get married. I've been with this person long enough. But then when the going gets tough, they're like, man, I deserve more than this. I don't need to be with a toxic person. Fuck you. You made a fucking commitment. You 100%. Brought all of your friends and family. You had this big fucking party. You did spend all this money for what? For it to be over in a few years? Fuck you. You made a promise to God. To God, dude. You got on your knees and you promised to God you'd be with this person through thick and thin, through health or sickness, whatever, poorness or wealth, whatever it is. And now the moment it starts getting tough, now the moment your promise gets put to the test, you're going to quit. Pussy. You are a pussy.
100%.
I agree with you.
Same
100%.
speech I gave my dad. Because when he was doing this thing with my mom, and he was like, they got divorced, and then he was trying to get back with her. And a month after he was like, I'm going to try, he was like, your mom's too much. Fuck you, dude. Too much? What the fuck was the point of that then?
Well,
so, yeah, people take this marriage thing so lightly. You should stick with your partner, no matter how shitty they are. If you have a kid,
Right.
I mean, and if you make that commitment, be a fucking person of
Right.
David, I
unless
agree.
you're in a situation where it's like there's a violent factor,
Yeah,
and unless you're in a
it's like-
situation where things have to, because your safety is in
Yeah.
question. But I truly 110%
David, I agree
believe
with
that.
you. I agree with this 100% also.
100%.
I am going to be a little bit liberal on this one, guys. I have to be a little bit liberal on this one. And I think my only, I think at our age, you're 27, I'm 28. How old are you?
29.
29, cool. 27, 28, 29.
Yeah.
Now, if we make this decision now, we are grown enough to stick with our commitments. If you make the
Right.
decision as an adult, you're good. What about these kids that get married at 18? Because they say, hey, you have to get married when you're 18 because that's how it works. You have to get married when you're 18, you have to stay with the same person. You're 18. You took me as an 18-year-old compared to now?
Oh,
bro, I
different.
didn't know shit. I was a completely different human being.
Yeah.
So how can you expect me to make a life commitment to a person when I'm not even fully a man
Yeah,
yet?
I think that
I
comes
can
out.
confidently, so back to what you were saying, Dave, you're like, oh, like be a fucking man about it. When I'm 18, I wasn't a man. I was a fucking
I don't
kid.
think an 18-year-old should be put
Right.
through that sort of test.
I
Yeah,
wasn't-
even
I
with
was-
military, I think they should start at 21, and I think that there needs to be some form of transitional period in adolescence as you're going from that 17 entering your adulthood. I think there needs to be a period between 17 to 21 to really prepare people for what adulthood
Really?
holds.
I disagree
So,
with that. I
but
think
that's-
military should be 18.
I think, yeah, I do agree with you. I think military.
Some guys need a kick in the ass.
No,
Yeah.
some do, but the only thing is that with the commitment that now comes with it, I think the same sort of principles that stand and uphold within a marriage also uphold within, a military, because you must be in a situation where you're 110% committed to the mission that was
That's where that
set.
comes from for some guys. They get sort of disciplined
Military,
from the military.
No, right,
Because
right.
it's like, you have no fucking choice.
Right, but then there are that percentage, which I do believe is now growing based on the society that we're in now, where people will go say, all right, I'll commit to this, and then they'll quit. And then when they quit, they start to quit across the board in life.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason why I think maybe if you were to push it to like 21, but then there's this adolescence college or adolescence academy that really prepares you for what you're gonna get into in adulthood. We're now producing the right kind of adults.
But then the thing is, don't you think that's the parents' job, though?
It is.
I was
So I think
That's
it goes
the
back-
biggest
goes
thing.
back to
It
the parents'
is.
job,
Right?
And
Truly. And that's why I think if somebody, you're now at 18, you're not in a position to where, you should be getting into a big time commit, whatever the case. It's because your parents did not do the job that they were supposed to do.
Part of that too, I think a big issue in the world right now. Coming from a single mother, I know this. The statistics on like single motherhood is insane.
Yeah.
And we can go into. I'm not gonna get political with this. I'm not gonna talk about the agenda. I'm not gonna talk about like the family unit. But did you guys know that the single motherhood is the highest point it's ever been?
Yeah.
In history.
Yeah.
In the United States, at least. I think 40% of mothers are single mothers.
Yeah.
And you could check me on that. It could be less, but 40. That's a crazy number,
Wild.
bro. That's
Wild.
wild to think about. And the thing is, like, there's incentives and subsidies where people obviously want to help single mothers. I had a single mother. I get it. But at the same time, if you incentivize it, it's going to happen more.
Exactly.
And when you have a single mother, these boys or girls, they grow up in broken homes. They don't get, because you have two parents for a reason,
Yeah.
right? God created that for a reason. A mother is there to teach you how to love, how to nurture, how to be a compassionate human being. She teaches you empathy. But a father teaches you strength.
Yeah.
So if you're learning empathy, compassion, but you're not learning strength, you're not learning principles, you're not learning values, which a lot of those come from the father, it doesn't really stick, which is why you have all these guys that aren't shit and you have all these girls that are hoes. Because everyone's growing up in a broken home or a flawed home where no one teaches them how to be an adult, no one prepares them for real life. And like you were saying, it just bleeds into all of society.
And what's crazy about it is it's gotten to a point now where the parents are competing with each other,
Yeah.
rather than working together on the mission of raising the child.
Facts.
Which is
They forget the main purpose.
the main purpose is raising the child.
This is
as
such a good
cohesive
fucking conversation.
unit,
I've been holding my
you know?
fist.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you can take a piss, but it's a situation where you sit there and you take a look at a lot of these broken homes. You take a look at a lot of these families where there's not a unit between the two of them.
Yeah.
The single motherhood is at an all-time high, and when you take a look at all of, like, whether it be crime amongst prisons, whatever the case may be, the larger percentage of them come from broken homes.
Yeah.
Now, with that being the case, and since I was a kid, my biggest frustration was, what you're ending up doing is you're teaching that child to now create their own broken home as they become older.
Yeah.
So now if you're a guy who grew up in a situation where let's say your mom said, well, your dad was trash, I didn't need your dad, or whatever the case is, when you now become a father, you're not going to feel as if you're needed. There's two different avenues. You can either become the love bombing dad who doesn't want to miss anything, wants to be there for the kid, or you'll become that other same cycle where it's like, well, I guess I'm not really needed. My mother was able to raise me without, my dad being there. So, my child's mother can raise my child without me being there. And you go the opposite way.
Yeah. And I think it's mostly, it can also go, it's sort of like, you get that mentality of like, I don't know, you lose appreciation for that relationship, mother and father and partner. And so you start treating your relationships with less care.
Right.
And so it happens that you then get a woman pregnant and then you're like, I can't commit to this. I'm so young. And then you become that guy that left. You become that guy that left his kid.
Yeah.
Or you become that really absent father. So
right, like a
and I
weekend
think,
dad.
Again, call me a conspiracy theorist if you want in the comments. I have no face. I am but a ghost in this podcast. I think that's all part of the ultimate global agenda to just ruin families, ruin people's morale and sort of view on life where it's, hey, you only here for such a limited time. Enjoy it. Go be on yachts, party, do drugs. Women, you don't need to get married. You don't need to be tied down to a man. Guys, go sleep with a bunch of women. And then what happens to the family? It's gone.
Yeah.
It's never
Exactly.
conversation. The moment you say, like, get married, it's like, oh, here we go. Oppressive mentality, right-wing. So it's all in order to keep our heads down and control us better.
Well, what happens, David,
100%.
what happens, civilizations have a life cycle. You look at the Roman Empire, every civilization in the history of human time has a life cycle, right?
Yeah.
You look at the Roman Empire, they killed it. They were around for 2,000 years. United States has only been around for 200 years. We're in the fucking first like 10%.
Yeah.
But what's happened is because the world moves so fast, human beings have created technology, it's connected everyone, it's accelerated the degradation of society. Whereas with Rome, it took 2,000 years because messages don't travel as fast. So agendas don't travel as fast. In the past, let's say with Rome, you're a prosperous nation, right? The Roman Empire, you're a prosperous nation, and you get that degradation. Someone's like, you know what, we're living good, let's just start being hoes, let's start sleeping around, let's start drinking a lot. That message creeps out way slower. But with social media and the internet, right, United States has been super prosperous for 200 years, but now if someone has that idea, they just tell everyone online, and they get that message to everyone online. So civilization life cycles are so much faster. Rome took 2,000 years for them to go from one of the most powerful, stoic nations on the planet, huge landmass, controlled everything, to then falling and collapsing because of the stuff that you're seeing in today's society. Same with the United States, you're seeing it very, very quickly now. What's interesting to see is because obviously you have messages that go both ways. So there's a message of, hey, do this, but you have the counter message, which is, hey, get married, start a family, do this. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, because now it's like a battle on both fronts.
Yeah, and it's wild to me because a lot of people, that's why we see a high level of regret. I think we probably live in a society now where there's no real way to take a poll, because you would have to get people on their deathbed to agree to now be interviewed or whatever the case may be about the level of regret. But this is just anecdotal, but I truly feel as if we're in the highest generation of regret we ever been in, where you could talk to somebody who's like in their 20s, go back and talk to them when they're in their 40s, they'll look back with shame. Despite the fact that you may really enjoy the experiences that you got, it made you into the person that you are when you're now the adult, but then you'll look back and you know what you were doing back then was bad, it was destructive, it wasn't conducive to success, but then you'll try to find excuses as to, well, we only live once, or, well, I was young and dumb, but you knew it was a problem. Like, by the time we reach our teenage years, really while we're incredibly young, we know what's right and wrong. But we try to make excuses for things.
Well, so this is the thing about knowing what's right and wrong. As a product of the system of having a single mother, I look back at my life and I'm like, ooh, shit could have gone bad there.
Right.
I'm very grateful. When I say I'm lucky in the sense that my mom put me in martial arts classes. It put me around a good...
Get you some discipline.
Yeah, it put me around a good environment, put me around people that are disciplined, people that can steer me in the right direction.
Right.
But let's say she didn't do that, right? And I was just, after school, instead of going to karate class for 5 hours, I would just go hang out in the streets. Mm-hmm. My mentors, instead of being these disciplined people that teach you honor, teach you respect, my mentors are now people in the streets that are like, yo, let's go smoke, let's go drink.
Right.
Let's go rob a bank, or let's go rob a liquor store.
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, fuck, we got money from this, let's do it. And then you easily become, like, you perpetuate the cycle, right?
Yep.
So that being said, it's like, when there's absent parents, you're naturally going to have regret because no one's teaching you, no one's putting you in the right environment.
And I think most people are chasing the camaraderie because with gangs, when I was very young, that was one of the things that I never could wrap my mind around. People just want to be a part
of something bigger than themselves.
You want to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. So if you're in a situation, you're chasing that camaraderie. That's why sports is so integral to, that child's growth, to learning the discipline, to being around, being held accountable, recognizing that your action doesn't only affect you, it also affects somebody else. Because I can't tell you the countless amount of times where you could look at videos of people in courtrooms when they're sentenced to an umpteenth amount of years in prison. Okay, you're going and you're doing the time. You're not even, doesn't even register in your mind the effect that it has on the other individual. If you now put that child, you put whoever into like a karate class, or you put them onto a football team, you put them in a spot where their actions also affect their teammates. Like one of the things with parenting that I always thought, if at any point I'm given the blessing of being able to have children, I would have a situation where if one person fucks up, we all have to reap the punishment. So, all right, cool, let's just say it's like push-ups or whatever. Well, this person messed up at school. Great, the whole family does push-ups now.
And the thing you get from that is accountability.
Accountability, because
Everyone
you recognize
what
you do doesn't affect you, it affects somebody else.
Exactly.
So because that's the case, we have a lot of these children where you come from a broken home, now you go out, the streets become your mentor. Now with that being the case, what you're not recognizing is the cause, or I should say whatever it is that you do, the effect of that cause of whatever it is that you do affects all of your loved ones. And it never registered in your mind that they could be affected. You thought, well, if I just fuck up, I just fuck up. No, it fucks up everything that's around you.
Human beings innately, we want to belong.
Right.
We want to belong to something. Whether it's an entrepreneurship community, I see a lot of these entrepreneurs that are like, this is my entrepreneurship community, and they're all positive. People want to belong to something. They belong to gangs.
Yep.
Oh, this is my set. I rep these colors. They want to feel like they have people that have their back, but more than that, they want to feel like they have people they have common ground with.
Right.
And I think a lot of that's why you have church groups. That's why you have gangs. That's why you have Facebook groups of like niche stuff, entrepreneurs. You have private Telegram groups. You have Discords. You have video game groups. People want to be part of a community. They want to feel like they belong somewhere. And most of the time, when people grow up in broken homes, the only place that accepts them are the streets, because they take anybody.
Yeah, they take anybody.
They take anybody.
Yeah,
they'll be like, oh, yo, you don't got nothing to do today? Just come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Right? They're the most unfortunate part about gangs and street culture is it's the most accepting.
Yeah, it's the most accepting. And then what sucks the most is there's a warped sense of honor and what's the word that I'm looking for? It's honor, and then also because there's no honor amongst thieves. So that's on the back end. Like if you were to look into like the history of the mafia, when people started squealing on each other, it's like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be family. This family came first. We all did the crime together, so obviously you go and do the time. What you don't recognize is ultimately they're just chasing that camaraderie. The moment that that's not there, I'll turn on you immediately.
100%.
Right? So with that being the case, that's one of the things that they don't see. It's on the back end. It's not on the front end.
And the thing
most
about
people fall in love
groups
with the front
like
end.
gangs or the streets, they're the most accepting, but the reason they're the most accepting is because they have the lowest standards.
Yeah, lowest standards.
Like a job at McDonald's, and again, not hating on McDonald's jobs, but like a job at McDonald's, the reason that it's so easy to get that job is because they have low standards. The reason it's so easy to get accepted into street culture or a gang is because they have the lowest standards.
Yeah.
And in order for you to get accepted into a higher group or a group with a higher purpose or more accountability, something that's more honorable, they require more work from you.
Yeah.
In order to be a part of a basketball team, they require you to put work in. They require early practices, right? They require you to do a lot of things that you might not want to do, and if you don't do it, they get mad at you and they might kick you out.
Yeah.
Because like any basketball team, if there's a person that doesn't work as hard as everyone else, they don't want that poison in the group. They don't want that cancer in the group.
Exactly.
But those people are the ones that are accepted by gangs and
right, because it's the path of least resistance. So then it's almost like everything that is worth substance, and it could all go back to original conversation about Khabib versus McGregor. When you're in a situation where the path of least resistance is there, you'll always fall victim to the hedonism. You'll always find yourself going out of your way to go join that group that has the lowest amount of standards. You want to be in a situation to where you're honorable, you're highly sought after, you're somebody where you can look back and have no regret in what it is that you did. You have to be in a situation to where you take the highest level of resistance. You know you're going to go through that adversity. You know you're going to go through a very rigorous kind of experience in order to get to where it is that you truly want to achieve. Because nobody who you really revere and wish you could be like ever got to that point doing nothing.
100%. Even in the lowest circles, let's say gangs or drug dealers, cartel even.
Yeah.
You look at someone like Pablo Escobar, right? It still took him a tremendous amount of work to get to where he's at. So you could hate him, you could say he's an evil guy, because I could agree with that. But at the end of the day, even to get to the top of that circle or top of that position, he put in a lot of work. He was very calculated. He did a lot of things that a lot of people weren't willing to do. So regardless, to get to the top of anything, it's going to require work. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require commitment. And yeah, man.
100%. And truly, it's like, ultimately, there's different paths to make it to a same destination. But in the process of getting there, there's a lot of work that has to be done to get to that particular point. So whether you look at with it high value or you look at what would be considered successful or whatever the case is, there's no easy way to get there.
There's no easy way to get there.
Distractions will always exist. You don't want to be in a situation to where you're not a man of value, you're not a man of honor, you don't have any core, non-negotiables that exist there and how you navigate throughout your life. So you have to make sure that is established. Whether it's from young, if you're a little bit older now, you have to identify what that is, because you don't want to be that person where you're constantly changing. You're like the wind. Wherever the wind blows, that's where you're at. It's the worst way to live life.
I think some of the best people are the ones with principles that they stand by, no matter what. Good or bad. When I look at some people have crazy things I don't agree with, but they're just principled human beings and they have reasons why they stand behind their principles. And even if they aren't necessarily right, I still respect those people more than the people that go flippy-floppy.
Right. And ultimately in life, everybody has a different perspective and I think that's why the conversation is very important. And dialogue is incredibly important, because if you lived one kind of lived experience, I live one kind of lived experience. If we can't now converse, not to figure out what experience was right, but have understanding about what it is that we've gone through and could have that comprehension about, okay, what lessons can we take away from that so we can now look at the next generation and then pass that game down, ultimately pass that value so that we're not raising these children with absolutely no direction. That's truly what the meaning of life really is. So whether it's the Khabib route, whether it's the McGregor route, you have to find the route that works best for you, but then you also have to almost live a life that you're not intentionally doing nefarious things that'll slow down your growth, mess around and take you out of the game type of situation. So you got to have that in mind, I think. I think that's incredibly important. And that's a good point, close on, because a lot of times people, it's a mindset thing across the board with everything, but it's very, 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 very important. So just keep that in mind. But one way or another, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this has been another episode of Assiduous with the diligent, vigilant, meticulous, sagacious, conscientious, analytical, methodical individual, the Chiseled Adonis. That's me. And he is a serial entrepreneur, the Filipino Prince Tycoon, Rene Lacad. We are Assiduous.
Buttery and sticky.